Hello, I'm Dr. Heather Norris, Dean of App State's Walker College of Business. Welcome to Business Matters. It is my pleasure to be here today with Jim Westerman, Director of Sustainable Business in the Walker College, Tammy Kowalczyk, Accounting Professor and Sustainability Fellow at Appalachian, and Jack Terrell, a College of Business student and also intern of our Office of Sustainability at Appalachian. We're here today to talk about sustainability. Welcome, Jim, Tammy, and Jack, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, would you start us off? We hear this word sustainability and sustainable business a lot these days. It's a big word. People have a sense for what it means. A lot of people have different definitions of what it means. Can you give us a broad understanding of the word sustainability?
Well, I'd first like to frame it a little bit in terms of the reason for sustainable business and why it's important. The carbon parts per million just passed 400 parts per million. It's rising 2 to 4 parts per million per year. And business, as usual, is a large contributor to that.
So let's take a step back. Let's take a pause right there.
Right.
Carbon parts per million is something that all of us understand here, but I'm not sure that everybody who's listening today knows what you're talking about there. So can you just give a 10-second education on what are you referring to?
Right. The density of carbon in the atmosphere traps gases and lands up having this effect that heats the globe. And the problem is that it can cause destructive effects in terms of the ecosystem, in terms of the food chain, and frankly, it can devastate our what Robert F. Kennedy likes to call our environmental infrastructure. And so, the relationship between business and the environment is critical because business relies on a healthy environment, for natural resources, to run its businesses, to have healthy communities. But the parts per million in the atmosphere run the risk of making the planet potentially unlivable. Carbon that gets trapped in the atmosphere will be there for 1,000 years. And so every year that we add to this, we're increasing the risk of having an environment that can't sustain human life. So for me personally, there's an urgency around this. Business is a big contributor to it. Business as usual is going to need to change. And at the Walker College of Business, I'm trying to help out with efforts to train the next generation of business leaders, the change agents that are going to hopefully make business more sustainable. In terms of that, within the Walker College of Business, we have a definition for what sustainable business is. It's on our website, which is if you go to the Walker College of Business website and click on sustain, you'll see a definition that our faculty has agreed on and that we're working to develop in terms of curriculum and student skills and this kind of thing. But generally, it consists of 3 basic components. You can refer to them in terms of profit, which is the business economic motive, planet, which is the environmental importance, and then finally people, which is the social element. We can also call it equity, environment, and economy. But the idea is that the environmental, protecting the environment and having business operate in harmony with the environment and not having devastating effects on streams, on the air, on in terms of excessive waste. All of these things are something that we have to work on in terms of businesses and making them more environmentally sensitive. The economic part of things is that we want businesses to be profitable, and what we're beginning to understand is that being responsive to the environment can be extremely profitable for businesses. It leads to innovation, new products that we can export. The more we rely on dirty old industries, the less we can export those products overseas. These industries already exist. And in fact, the reason why they can sustain themselves is because the externalities that they create aren't built into the prices of their products. So in essence, what you have is if you pollute a stream in the backyard of your community, and that stream were to run, that pollution goes downstream and affects all the fishing companies and so on and so forth downstream, we've made regulations that say that you can't do that, to outlaw that, because it has such major impacts on all the businesses in the community, the drinking water that people use. But the problem becomes with carbon. When you dump carbon into the air, there is no price on that. And if that price were a part of the energy that were produced in carbon-intensive industries, that would give a more level playing field for solar and this kind of thing. And then finally, the equity part of things. Research shows that societies that are more equitable tend to have higher standards of living, overall higher income, both in terms of mean and median income. And so all three of these things work together. Good business is sustainable business, gives us entrepreneurship and innovation, social entrepreneurship, so on and so forth. It's responsible to business and the communities that give businesses licenses to operate. And then it also it can be very profitable but responsible to the environment as well.
And I know that was a big question to ask, and you've given us a lot of really great material to work with, and I want to see if Tammy and Jack want to dive down into any of those areas further.
Well, sure. Sustainability is the definition of sustainability, or to sustain, is the ability to endure. And so, from a business standpoint, businesses must use resources that encapsulate these three areas: financial resources, environmental resources or natural resources, and social resources. And really, sustainability, especially with respect to business and continuation of business, is the ability to sustain those resources. Mm-hmm. And so it's about carbon impact, but it's also about, for example, there's some other environmental issues that are starting to develop. Water quality is becoming an issue, and in the social sense, we have the issue of equity, but also the issue of hunger, and we have issue of health. And if you look at, for example, social resources, labor is one of our social resources, and so businesses sort of have a responsibility to also sustain those resources as well. And so sustainability, in my view, is and mostly in agreement, and all in agreement really with Jim's talking about. But for me, as an educator, it's about trying to help students understand that really it's about maintaining resources, mm-hmm. and very threatened resources for the most part.
And Jack, from the student perspective, and you're working and interning in the Office of Sustainability. So, mm-hmm. what's your take on that broad definition of sustainability? What does it mean for you?
Well, in relation to business in particular, I feel like there's a disconnect between thinking something is sustainable or green and profitable. I think there's a perception that they're different when really they're one and the same most of the time. And I really feel like there should be moves made towards making that known to the general public, so that, as Jim said, we can move away from business as usual. And I think you find business in every aspect of life. In every company, you need a good business person, a good business plan. And I feel like there's a lot of room for the business community to grow within every organization. And I also think that sustainability is and can be found in every region and every industry. So really, I think that, as Tammy said, it encompasses something that can continue. And I think that's something that we should incorporate into every aspect of life and business in particular.
And I really applaud the efforts of the three of you and your knowledge in the different areas of sustainable business. And looking at the college as a whole, it was incredible to me to see that we have that expertise in all the functional areas of business, and the passion, the research, the curriculum that we're developing, and the drive to really do business for good. So it's exciting for me to see those efforts coming to fruition, And Jack, with you as a student who's getting the benefit of that knowledge and taking it forward, and you'll be making a difference in the world very shortly. Well, you already are, but in a much bigger way. Tammy, you're an accounting professor. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about what the accounting profession has to say about sustainability and how it is a big part of measuring sustainability now?
It's interesting. I've been actually involved in teaching and doing research in sustainability accounting for many years now, but I think the original link with accounting in terms of sustainability perspectives was when the phrase triple bottom line accounting was coined many years ago by an economist, actually. And the notion behind triple bottom line accounting is measurement. And it's the measurement, what accountants do in general, always in the financial realm, has been measurement of performance, and then communication of that measurement, of the results of that measurement to those who need that information for decision making. Well, with respect to sustainability, it's pretty much the same thing. We are measuring performance, only not just financial performance. We're measuring environmental performance, environmental stewardship performance, and also with respect to social justice. And so there have been standards and reporting frameworks that have developed over the years to help businesses and organizations, nonprofits as well, to report their sustainability performance. And so it sort of has moved into the accounting field because many of these high-level corporate social responsibility reports that are being prepared by most of the top Fortune 500 businesses, they're asking accounting firms essentially to be preparing these. And so we sort of fell into it, although that question still keeps coming up because I think there's not a lot of connection really in any discipline in business in terms of how is that connected to sustainability? And I think it's primarily because the definition of sustainability still trends toward the idea of measuring carbon emissions or climate impact and things like that. But I think more recently we have, I think, a greater involvement with the sustainability movement, for lack of a better word, and that is that I think we need to show how sustainability is financially viable. I think that's one of the largest obstacles for businesses and any organization to engaging in sustainability practices because they think it's too expensive. And so I think it's the responsibility now that for us not only to measure performance, but also to show how these types of initiatives can be achieved.
Well, in fact, a business can't sustain itself unless it can pay for the products that it makes. So
that's right.
That's a spot-on comment.
Yeah. Tammy, could you talk a little bit about SASB potentially?
Yeah, so very exciting developments, and these reporting frameworks are out there that many companies are using, but not necessarily because it's all basically voluntary reporting of sustainability performance. But 2 years ago, there was a development of a Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, which is not connected to the Financial Accounting Standards Board, except that the idea behind this is that it's meant to standardize the measures that are being used to compare performance, environmental performance, so like carbon emissions or creation of jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And what's happening is they've gone industry by industry to identify those metrics that they want to use, that everyone would use, so that you can compare amongst organizations in terms of who's the better performer, so to speak. And the idea behind this, or the hope, because one of the persons involved with the formation was an ex-SEC chair. And so the idea behind this is the hope that it will be included, this information will be included, not necessarily audited, but included in filings with the SEC for publicly traded companies.
And the SEC is Securities and Exchange Commission, for those in our
Oh,
audience who
sorry.
aren't familiar. Jack, tell us what your involvement has been and continues to be as a student on campus, and what are you doing in your internship role in the Office of Sustainability?
Well, my primary role there has been for the past 7 months coordinating and planning with Jed Moody, who is our sustainability advisor to the Chancellor, to help plan and coordinate the Appalachian Energy Summit. And what that is it's a collaborative effort between the 17 public universities in North Carolina, as well as any willing participants from the private colleges. In addition to that, we've also invited other states for the first time this year to learn from the system that we have here in North Carolina. And the whole goal of this summit is to really work towards having a unified effort towards improving sustainability efforts. And this is done through 7 different breakout groups, which range from energy managers all the way down to students like me. And that's my position with them is I'm responsible for recruiting 80 of the best students in the state of North Carolina to participate, as well as try to encourage those students to submit and develop research or projects they'd like to submit for a poster competition we hold, in which this year we had 30 different research projects spanning from a freshman in their undergraduate program all the way on up to somebody in defense of their PhD degree at the moment. And this has really been exciting because in the past, we've done this for the past 4 years, but from a student perspective, there's not been a whole lot of connection between the little core group of students and the other faculty or staff or the industry that we have there as sponsors. So this year, what I did is we developed a way to really hone those professional skills of the students. And these students are already high achievers. As I said, PhD and master's students made up half of that group of 80. And so out of about 220 odd students, I chose these 80 people based off of their experience, their GPA, and then I sent this information to our sponsors and their HR departments. And we developed a career panel during the Student Summit, and we will be participating in ongoing networking opportunities between the students and our industry sponsors. And I'm happy to say that I'd say 4 to 5 of these students that I know of right now have received soft offers from these companies.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
We did a fabulous job choosing those, and I had the pleasure of going by the student research posters and hearing a little bit from some of them about the research that they're doing, and that PhD candidate in particular was very impressive in his knowledge, but so were the undergraduate students and the master's students. And, you know, we know that we have outstanding students with great potential here at Appalachian, and now we're seeing that potential is also being realized at these other institutions. And, you know, it gives me great hope as an investor in students for the future of business and the future really of our planet, to see that great minds like yours and the other students who participated are hard at work at solving these very big issues of climate and people and really the structures that we have in place and how to make changes in those. Jim, I'm going to try to bring it down a notch,
Okay.
but tell us some concrete things. And I know you referenced some of these earlier, but what are some things that we're doing in the College of Business, and maybe a particular mention to the academic side? So we'll stick with the student focus for now. And how are we preparing students like Jack for their futures and for the business world of tomorrow?
Well, we have 3 degree programs that we're offering right now. The first one is a bachelor's degree in environmental economics. The second one is a MBA with an emphasis in sustainability. And the third program is a minor in sustainable business that's open to all majors across campus. And the idea is that if you have a major in biology or you have a major in anthropology or whatever field you're in, we can train you on the basics of sustainable business. So, you'll get information on triple bottom line accounting from Tammy. You'll also learn risk management and insurance that's sustainability related from Dr. Dave Marlette. We'll go into logistics and big data and their relationships to eliminating and reducing waste. And so we kind of go through all of the basic management models and practices in terms of, and it's cross-disciplinary, so also bring in people from other portions of the campus that can contribute expertise in terms of the, project management and this kind of thing, and some of the science of climate change to educate students so they understand the need, but also the tools to help organizations do environmental audits and this kind of thing. So this will be open to all majors across campus, and hopefully this will leverage change agents in industries across the United States, across North Carolina, and also locally as well.
Well, and I will share a couple of recent interactions with some folks in industry who have mentioned in public settings that they have training in a business discipline, for example, an MBA, and also a master's in environmental science, and that really it was the MBA that allowed them to make real change in the world, that they have to understand the business concepts and structures, and the science, of course, goes along with that hand in hand, but really they cite the business degree as the one having the biggest impact on their ability to affect change. So that's something that particularly catches my ear because we are in the business of educating on business. But love the collaborations and the interdisciplinary nature that we're moving into. I think that just allows us to do things that weren't possible before. Tammy?
Well, to add to that, I think one of the themes from the Energy Summit has been that the idea about sustainability is to find solutions to the threats to sustainability. And what keeps recurring over and over and over again is the idea that this is an interdisciplinary problem, and it's an interdisciplinary solution that is needed. It's not one entity or any particular side of a coin that got us here. It was a collective set of events and activities that have occurred over many, many years. And so it has to be a collective action for a solution. And that's what's nice about from what we're doing from the business side is we are drawing from resources from interdisciplinary experts, so to speak. And one of the things that Amory Levins has mentioned as a speaker at the Energy Summit is, he said it best was, it doesn't really matter what the motivation is for why you're engaging in a sustainable practice, whether it's to reduce cost or because that's the right thing to do, it's about the outcome. And I think that was one of the best messages I think that we can hopefully pass on to students.
Yeah, that is a great message. Jack, what's your takeaway and what's your advice to students who are just becoming engaged in this area?
Well, I think it's very important, and many examples I've seen are that in my work with the Office of Sustainability and helping coordinate the Energy Summit, is that a problem that I see across the other disciplines aside from business that I don't see so much in the College of Business is having a problem finding funding for these projects. From the solar car team we have on campus, all the way to a student I met from UNC Wilmington that's trying to use gym equipment to really create energy at a gym, reducing cost, and really push through that sustainability model. But I've seen so many great ideas from really intelligent people, not happen, not become reality because they don't have a solid business plan or they don't have a firm grasp of what the financial costs of what they need to do are. And I feel like it's a great opportunity to involve business in these aspects. And most of the people I meet are very receptive to that. They're very open to that. They acknowledge that they have this need. And so that's why I'm really excited about what the College of Business is doing, because it's really helping to solve that problem, to really apply the knowledge that we're taught in our coursework and in class every day, not just to accounting or management, but to really every other discipline. It's something that can be used by everybody.
That's great. And I think one of the takeaways for me from one of the keynote speakers was, you need the brains, but you also need the entrepreneurial, innovative thinking, and you need to be willing to take risks and try new things. Well, thanks, folks. That's our program for this week. You can find additional information about Walker College of Business and Sustainability on our website, business.appstate.edu. Thanks again for joining us on Walker College's Business Matters. I'm Heather Norris.